All right, guys. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. We got a special guest in the house, former world number 4, James Blake, the tournament director of the Miami Open. James, welcome onto the Pure Tennis Podcast, my man.
Thanks for having me.
Where are you located right now? Where's your where being at?
Home in San Diego. Been out here for a few years now, loving it.
So when you're out in San Diego, how often are you picking up the sticks?
Not very often. I hit yesterday actually though, so that was but I think that might have been the third time this year. There's one kid out here, Hudson Rivera, who's a really good player, heading off to Stanford next year, and he gets me out on the court because it's fun seeing him get better. He's gotten so much better in the last year and a half that it's that gets me out on the court, and that makes me have a lot of fun out on the court.
Stanford's got a lot of talent this year. They got Banerjee, they got Nishesh Besarvetti from Indiana. Got to watch him dominate the Tiafoe Nats and won the big title there. But do you tune into much college tennis these days?
Not a ton, but I mean, I stay a little up to date with Harvard. I just saw the team out here. They were out here for a break, and they played San Diego State, and the coach Andrew Rube had me go and hang with the players. Last year, actually, that's another reason I would have gotten out on the court, but it was raining the day I was supposed to go meet and hit with them. So I just hung out with them and had lunch with them. But so I stay a little bit up to date with how they're doing. You know, now that Hudson will be off to Stanford soon, I'll definitely keep up to date with them, especially with Goldstein, a good buddy of mine as the coach. So I'll keep tabs on them and how they're doing. But I don't tune in quite as often as I used to checking the rankings and everything. I got one of my best friends out here went to Baylor and played tennis there, so he keeps me up to date on how they're doing, and they're having a rough season so far, I've heard, this year.
Baylor, you said who? Baylor,
yeah.
Baylor just lost a tough one. They got a good team, but the Big 12 is so damn good. So if you check the rankings, you've seen that. I guess Tennis Point, we were the sponsor of the ITA rankings, which is pretty cool. So that's kept me definitely involved in the college tennis scene. And I love it. I think the energy around college tennis is amazing. I would like to see more of that, just the atmosphere and the vibe and just the camaraderie somehow transition itself into the tour life. We've seen it happen in Laver Cup, Davis Cup, Holtman Cup, and like all these other team events. I just wonder if there's a way, and you might have thought about this in the past, like how do we keep that energy that college tennis has, where and there's more of a team aspect of it, even though you're fighting your 1v1 battle on the court in professional tennis, and maybe it's not possible.
Yeah, I loved college as well. I loved being a part of any team, really. I played high school tennis and college tennis. Got very fortunate to be a part of Hopman Cup teams, Davis Cup teams. We played World Team Cup in Dusseldorf, and I just loved being part of a team. And you're right, the team atmosphere is incredible. I loved seeing this year at the United Cup how Americans did so well, and having the combined mix event. That was a lot of fun, and I just think it's tough to do too often because if you turn a whole season into it takes away from that individual aspect of the sport that we've all come to know and love. And so I love the way that they do it, and when it is the opportunity, really some of my favorite memories of my entire career are Davis Cup weeks, not even some of the matches, some of the weeks where we're just leading up to it and get to be a part of the team and feel that kind of college atmosphere with probably a little extra added pressure. And you got the best players from your country playing and proud to be representing your country. So those are really, really special. And I hope the players continue getting that opportunity. And I know Bob's excited to be the new captain, and this team I think is going to be pretty special. I felt really good about our team, with myself, Andy Roddick, and the Bryan brothers together for so many years. And we had great other people around us with Marty Fish, Taylor Dent, Robbie Ginepri. So it was something that was always special, and I hope more players get that opportunity.
No, I think you just said it best. I think in the United Cup, another event I forgot about, actually, it was amazing. I think showing girls and guys competing for the same team, it added a different element to it. You couldn't have, Big Foe was, just his camaraderie he brings to a team. You know, Big Foe he lives for those moments. And I think he gave both the guys and the girl, he's the type of player that gives you that level of belief in yourself. And I think for a girl like Alicia Parks, who's trying to make her way on the women's tour, one of the best servers in the world. And I think that was just, we did a commercial shoot with her in Indian Wells. It just seemed like that moment, those experiences, really, she took a lot out of that. And I think those type of things, even though it's like I don't even think she played in the United Cup, but I think just for being around that locker room and You got Madison Keys, Pagula, Tiafoe,
Yeah.
all those guys. I mean, I think that was huge for her, and I think that's what brings out the best in tennis. I mean, and you see like in college tennis, like Diana Schrader, who's had a lot of success on the women's tour. She goes and plays these college matches, these dual matches, and she's losing. I mean, she lost to Duke in straight sets last week after she had a good match. I think she took out before losing to Badosa. I think she had an upset. I don't know if it wasn't Zachary. I forget who it was, but it's just like, it goes to show you that the environment, the atmosphere, the energy around college tennis and having teammates push you forward. I mean, it matters.
Yeah, it definitely is a great feeling to be a part of that team. And I always felt that way about the practice partners. I got to be a practice partner when I was pretty young, and you get to see the level of professionalism, the level of talent, the level of ability, and then try to kind of match yourself up against them and see how they prepare for big matches. And to get to see that with guys like Tiafoe and Fritz and the women like Pagula and Keys. And then also seeing that they're having fun. I mean, Francis is the absolute perfect example of, he became so much more professional. It's exactly what we were hoping for when we saw him break onto tour when he was 19 years old or 18 years old. And you want him to keep that that youthful personality, that excitement, but still be a little more professional. And he's managed to do that perfectly. He's extremely professional when it comes to putting in the work, doing the things he needs to do off the court. But then he hasn't lost that fun loving, that smile, that goofing around when you can goof around. And I think that's something that for the young players to learn from is really good. And so all those players that didn't even play, I know Kudla was down there, didn't play, Parks was down there, didn't play. And getting to see that and seeing that top level, because obviously they won the event, you know, that's a really high level of tennis they're playing, but also that they can have a lot of fun. They can enjoy their time on the court and then still put in the hard work. So I always love that feeling, and glad to see it's kind of being passed down, and everyone can on that bench can learn from it.
I thought it was interesting that Tiafoe kind of gave credit to talking to guys like LeBron James and Dwayne Wade at the NBA All-Star break. And just like, he got to see, like he said, his parents always told him, you know, you got to work hard. You got to do this every day. And it's got to be consistent work that you put in to get to the top. And he said it didn't hit as hard, but then when you hear from one of the greatest of all time, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and two of the greatest basketball players of all time, it's like, it kind of resonates a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's always said, you know, he's been an NBA fan forever, and those are the guys he looks up to. So you hear something from them, it definitely hits different than from your parents. I mean, I think all of us at some point that were taught by our parents or learned the game from our parents, at some point you hit an age where you don't want to listen quite as much to your parents. You want them to be parents and not coaches. And so he hit that point with his parents, and now you hear it from mentors, you hear it from idols, you hear it from people that you really look up to, and it does make a big difference. And that's what I think that'll hit him even harder, I think, 10 years from now, when he's the one that's giving the advice and someone's looking up to him and saying, hey, I watched you make it to the semis of the Open in 2022. And that, you know, that was when I was just coming up. That was when I was just starting, and I wanted to know what you were doing and how'd you do that and how'd you deal with the pressure? How'd you handle this? And, you know, he's gonna have all that kind of life experience to go back on. And it's great that he's learning from those that went before him. I was lucky enough to learn from the guys like Sampras and Agassi and Todd Martin and Jim Courier. And you know, they were extreme competitors with each other, but all of them in their own certain way were great at helping the younger generation. So I know Francis will be like that when he gets to that age, because I feel like it's continued. That whole cycle is really continued. And those guys helped us, myself and Andy Roddick and Marty Fish helped the younger guys. Then Isner and Query really kind of set the tone for the guys like Jack Sock and that next generation. And they've all helped Francis and Taylor and those guys. And I think they're just going to keep paying it forward.
So you grew up in New York. When was your first experience playing tennis, and what was your, like, why did you gravitate towards the sport?
Well, I've joked many times with my parents that it was just because they were too cheap to pay for a babysitter, and they loved playing tennis with each other. They practiced that, you know, they would hit with each other. It was like their kind of fun, you know, social atmosphere. Our social outing was them playing tennis. So they'd bring us to, at that time, the Harlem Junior Tennis Program, which is called the Armory, and we'd go there and we'd be kind of running around the outside of the courts a little bit, and then at the end they'd toss us a few balls, me and my brother, and we liked it. We wanted to be like our parents. And then, I mean, I was probably only 3, 4, 5 years old and just hitting the ball and wanting to have fun and probably trying to swing as hard as I could until I learned to actually keep it in the court, which some say I probably still never learned. But I definitely did my best and then just had fun. And my dad was definitely someone that really, really preached, just like Francis' parents, hard work. Just work harder than the next guy and you'll be successful. And So I learned that there. Actually, I used to go to the clinics on the weekends, and that was all he would ever preach, is just work harder. We get in there, we're doing our calisthenics, we're doing our jumping jacks, we're doing our jumping rope, we're running laps, we're doing everything. And so I just learned it there and fell in love. I mean, I always loved the individual aspect of a sport. I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was having a terrible baseball team when I was about 12 years old or 13 years old. And man, I hated losing every time we go out there. It didn't matter what I did. I felt like we were going to keep losing. I'm tired of this. I want to do it all on my own.
Oh my gosh. So when was what's your first memory of holding a racket? Like what racket did you first have? Do you remember like the first kind of moments that
Yes, I do. First racket I ever had was a Yonex R7. That was my mom's. So I would use that. I never used a junior racket, and it was way too heavy. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those. Those are the old Yonexes that were just way too heavy. And I could barely like pick it up and just kind of swinging it probably halfway along the ground. And so that was the first one I ever used. I think the first racket I ever actually got that was mine, I wasn't just hitting with my mom's, was a Pro Kennex. I think it was called the White Ace, the white one, and that was only because I wanted a white racket. I thought those looked really cool at the time, and so that was my first one.
So is that what motivated you to hit the gym when you couldn't swing your racket over your shoulder? You started working on that physical fitness?
Yeah, when I was 4 years old, I knew I needed to get a little stronger. No, I just I loved it right from the start, just hitting balls anywhere. And my mom, when she would play tennis or whatever, if she was playing with a friend or my dad was playing with a friend, they'd leave me, they'd give me anything. They said I would just grab a stick and just pick up rocks, pick up anything. I just wanted to hit. I'd always be hitting something, and if I did happen to have an extra racket or something, I'd be hitting that against the wall. I'd be doing whatever just to pick anything up and swing a racket.
So when was the first time where you were like, I mean, you seemed like you picked it up and loved it right away, but was there a time in your early childhood or your teenage years where you were like, yeah, I want to pursue this to the next level. I want this to kind of, I mean, you ended up, academics were obviously a big part of what you were doing as well. I mean, but like, how did you kind of juggle both of those? And was there a time where you were like, I'm going to focus on my academics, but my long-term vision is I want to be a professional tennis player?
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of like went in waves a little bit, because when I was 10, 11 years old or so, I was, that's when I would watch some tennis, and I'd go to the Open with my dad, and, oh man, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. But they were so good there that it was kind of like just a dream. Like, that's amazing. Like, these guys are like robots. They're so good. So that's so far away, but I still thought, like, you know what?
They're still that way.
Yeah. Just felt that way. But if I like 10, 11 years old, I was like, you know what? I think I can do it. And then reality set in, because I was little. So I was getting beat up in the 14s, even into the 16s a little bit, until I finally grew. And so at that time, when I was barely making nationals, and in my dreamer head, I'm going to be a pro someday, I kind of reality set in. I said, all right, you know what? Let's reshift. Let's shift our goals and say, okay, I want to do my best, and maybe I can get a college scholarship. Maybe I can play D1 college and be really good there, and that's my goal. Then I started getting better, and I finally grew. I grew about 9 inches in 1 year. And so once that happened, and I was trying to play aggressive at 5'3", and it wasn't working too well for some reason. So when I finally grew, and wins just started happening, kept winning and winning and winning. And when that happened, it actually didn't really set in, because I didn't realize how much better I'd gotten in about a year or two. When I think I got to number 1 in the country in the juniors. And then I got to college, and it honestly didn't hit me at all. Even in juniors, when there were agents around me at the Junior US Open and talking to me about turning pro, and I was just laughing at getting these business cards saying, I can't beat my brother. I can't beat any of these college guys. I've just watched a bunch of college guys, and there's no way I'm as good as these guys. So I don't know why these guys think I'm going to be any good. But fast forward to college, I get to college, and I honestly got to college with the intention that I thought I was going to play number 4 on the team. I thought, because I'd watched my brother. I went to college at Harvard, where my brother was already a senior, and I'd gone up and watched them practice all the time. And I thought my brother was way better than me. And this guy, Phil Sang, I thought was better than me. And this guy, Kunj Madrigal, I thought these guys were all better than me, because I've watched them play. I watched how good they are, man. These guys are bigger, stronger, faster than me. And I get there, and everyone on the team is talking about, is James going to play number 1 or number 2? Am I going to play 1 ahead of my brother, or is he going to play ahead of me? And I thought they were crazy. And then the first rankings came out, and I thought I was going to play, and we hadn't played any dual matches or anything, and they had me as 4 in the country. And I'm thinking I was going to play 4 on the team, and now they're telling me I'm the 4th best player in the country. This is crazy. Like, it didn't hit me until I got there, until I started playing some college matches, that I'm good enough to play with the top guys in college already at 18 years old now. then it hit me, and then it took a minute for it to sink in, and then realize, oh, maybe I do have a chance of doing this in the future. And that's actually when I needed to build up my body, because I went to college at 6 foot, 155 pounds, and
That gives me chills though. That's dope. That's awesome. That you like. Not, I feel like there's not many players that have that mindset. You know, everybody thinks they can go pro. It seems like.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's great to have those dreams and have those goals, but I also try to always kind of think about it and think about what's real and what's realistic to believe, and I didn't want to ever think, you know what, if I work my tail off, I do everything I can, and I don't make it as a pro, does that mean I'm a failure? No, that means I did my best and I got the most out of my ability. And that was the most boring answer I would always give to reporters in press conferences when they would say, "Oh, well, what's your goal? You're 23 in the world. Are you looking for top 20?" I was like, "I don't know. I hope I can, but I'm going to do my best and see where it takes me. And if that's top 20, great. If that's top 10, great. But if this is the best I do, and I've done everything I can to be successful, then I can't be upset about that. I can't, that I want to end my career knowing that I did my best, and that's the goal. And we'll see where that takes me. And I can't be upset or I can't get too high or too low about the numbers. I can just do my best." And I think that really helped me to have peace of mind. Like I'm old now. I'm 43 years old, and I've got no regrets about my career. And I feel like I'm lucky, because I know there's a lot of other players that don't feel that way. They feel like they should have done this differently. They should have done that differently. And I did my best. I made mistakes. That's not saying I was perfect in any way. I definitely made mistakes, but I learned from those mistakes, and I tried to do better each time. So I got no regrets for how my career went, and what I missed out on, or what what they call sacrifices, missing out on some of the late nights, missing out on some of the friends' weddings and things like that. But that was my choice. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to see how good I could be, and I found out.
You glided over a very important part of that story. You didn't mention, so who ended up playing number 1 singles and number 2 singles at Harvard?
So it worked out really, really interesting that I was hurt when I got to school. My shoulder was bad, so I didn't play most of the fall. And then, what we did was we didn't have time to play a challenge match between me and my brother. And then we were supposed to play at the end. We actually both made the finals of what at the time was called the Rolex. I don't know what it's called now, but the regionals. So we made the finals, and we were also in the doubles. And then the doubles, the day before we were supposed to play the finals, on match point, my brother bruised his heel. He slammed his heel into the ground and couldn't play. So we didn't play the finals. That probably would have been our challenge match, but he's out for a little while. And then as we're going to play, we said we were going to platoon there in the spring, and then we were going to play or for a little while. We had a short few matches. We were going to just platoon at 1 and 2, and then we were going to play a challenge match for who plays the rest of the spring. And my brother, who is one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life, goes out and tries to do a sprint at the end of practice when he's already tired. And one of the other guys on the team said, "I can beat you in a 60. And he tried to run it, and he tore his hamstring. So he was out the entire spring. So I played number 1, but it was unfortunately, it was just my brother was on the DL.
Don't tell me this match never happened.
Match never happened. I have never, as an adult, played an actual competitive match against my brother. The last time we played, I was probably about 10 years old when I was playing up in a 14s, and I had to play him in an event like that. But since then, we have never, ever played in a competitive match.
So so you can never say you're better than your brother, I guess.
Never. I don't think I ever would. I swear, when I got to college, I thought he was so much better than me. Oh, actually, I tell you about, we did play one time after that. I was getting a bunch of press in Fairfield, Connecticut, where I was playing high school tennis, and so he had gone off to college, and everyone now is saying, as reporters always do, is, "Oh, this kid's going to be even better than his brother. He's so good. And everyone's talking about me being better than Thomas. And he came back, and when we would practice, we would just drill. We'd do a bunch of stuff. We didn't really play. He came back right after high school practice from college, and he would never do something like this. So I thought it was kind of weird. He's like, "Hey, James, I'm going to come up, during your high school practice." Like, "Okay, cool. We'll hit some." He's like, "We're going to play though." I was like, "Oh, okay, great." He beat me 2-2 with the entire team watching, just to make sure that they all knew, okay, James might be better in the future, but I'm still the top dog here. And he made sure to let everyone know that he was much better than me at that time.
You didn't tank that one, did you?
What's that?
You didn't tank that, did you?
Oh no, I definitely didn't tank that. He was better than me then. I was still tiny. He overpowered me so easily then, and that's why for so long I still always thought of myself as the one that was, the little brother, that I couldn't compete with him. He was bigger, faster, stronger, better than me at everything growing up. So It took that. I mean, part of that is what sort of ingrained the hard work in me, that I had to work so hard just to try to keep up with him. And I do think it really helped me. But I still thought of it that way, that mentality of like, I got to work twice as hard as him just to be able to compete with him.
That's cool. That's awesome. No, and I think college tennis has always been an avenue for the top guys to take to reach their heights on the pro circuit. But it does seem, I mean, now I've only been like, I can say like kind of full, like all the way in with college tennis for the last, I don't know, since I played college tennis, I guess, the last 10 years or so. So, well, what do you think it just seems like it just continues to get better and better. Why do you think these players are having so much success? Is it more guys are going the college route and they're just taking that as a development route? Or do you think the college atmosphere and just the resources that they have are developing these players into pros? I mean, we're seeing so many top guys come in their top 100 already.
Yeah, I've always thought it's extremely helpful to go the college route. I mean, there's obviously the outliers. There's the not quite unicorns, but the ones that are special. The Andy Roddick, he had no business going to college. There was no reason. He was winning tour titles when he was 18 years old. So why does he need to go to college? Even Sam Querrey, I remember I hit with him right before he made the decision. Am I going to go to college? I'm going to turn pro. And then before you know it, he wins 2 challengers back to back. And okay, if you're winning challengers, that's the way I always felt. It's like, if you're winning challengers, you're winning matches at tour events, you can probably say it's safe to say you're going to be successful. You can be successful on tour. Give it a run. Anyone else, I feel like it's so much better to develop, and you get free training. You get a group of guys that are like-minded, that are going to kind of support you and give you free practice and coaching, and you've got a structure already built in. And the one thing that I always felt like was great is the pressure. You feel pressure. I felt so much pressure being the number one player on the team. It comes down to a 3-all and you're the last one on the court. It didn't happen that often for me, but when it does, man, that's pressure. That's different than when you're going out and playing for yourself. So it's and I think that does kind of steal your nerves a little bit. So you go out and Davis Cups, when I got away crowds cheering against me, there weren't a lot that were more difficult to deal with than that Georgia Bulldog crowd. They really weren't. And so It made me realize, okay, if I can handle this at 18 years old, when I'm 23, 24, 25 years old and hopefully a little bit more of a veteran, I can handle the fact that in Croatia, they're yelling at me and they're cheering for me to double fault. And that's okay. That's the same thing Georgia was doing 5-6 years ago. So I really think it helps the players to find out who can deal with that kind of pressure. And that makes a big difference on tour, because there's a lot of players that are talented, and there's a difference in the mindset, I think, for the guys that then make it, as opposed to just being talented. And so I think you can sometimes weed that out a little bit in college, because if you can't handle the distractions of whatever, fraternity, sorority life, you can't handle the distractions of class schedule, you can't handle the distractions of the crowds, you can't handle all that kind of stuff. Well, you know what? It's only going to get amplified once you go on tour. So it's a way of finding out, hey, I can handle this now. Now
is it though? What they do in Athens is pretty crazy. Like, I don't know if I've seen any environment that wild in the pro circuit, like besides the team events, maybe.
Yeah, the team events is probably the only.
I think that's why Ben Shelton. I think that's why Ben Shelton's transitioned to like he dealt with far more than what he deals with on the tour as far as those interactions go. Like, he played in the SEC where, I mean, it was hostile environments, and I think that is a part of why, like, he seems unfazed by almost anything. That's why you see him make the ridiculous run that he made in Australia, like less than a year out from winning the NCAAs.
Yeah, he's such a fun case. He's so fun to see, because I think he brings that college mentality to the tour, and he's getting in people's faces. He's fired up, and I mean, he doesn't mean anything disrespectful. You can see that in him. He's the nicest kid in the world, greatest family. So I don't think he means anything by it, but he's bringing that college atmosphere, and it'll be interesting to see if that tones down a little bit, because he sees that not everyone out there is doing that. I mean, when he would do that against Georgia or an A&M or Florida State or anyone in the college ranks, they're going to give it right back, and the whole team's going to go crazy. And that's the give and take of college tennis. But out here, when you're playing Richard Gasquet, who's played 600 matches on tour, he's not going, in your face, back at you, doing anything like that. He's going about his business, being professional and trying to win the match. So we'll see if Ben kind of tapers it down just a little bit, and then or if he continues having that spirit his whole time. I mean, I always thought I was one of the people that thought Rafa would tone it down from when I saw him starting out with the enthusiasm he had for every single point at 17 years old. And shoot, it's almost 20 years later, and he's still got that same enthusiasm. So maybe Ben's got that in him, but it's tough to compare anyone to Rafa.
Right. No, I hope Ben doesn't lose that, because I think that's what makes him special. And I think that's what puts him in that gives him that competitive edge, and it lets him just, even when he's down, he seems like he can always get himself back up. And I think that's what Rafa has done so well his whole career, is like, even when you count him out, if he's down 5-love, he still believes that's his to win. So
absolutely,
I think that hopefully that stays. You spoke about the distractions that happen in college tennis. It seems like, we brought him up before, but Big Foe is inviting those distractions. He wants to see more crowd interaction, more movement. He wants the noise to get up. It was a big topic down in Miami for that week. I asked Tommy about it in the presser, and Tommy was all for it. He wants to see young fans out there having fun. How do you kind of process that? And like, you being a tournament director of the Miami Open, one of the greatest tournaments in the world, I mean, is this something that you've considered that you would kind of look into tweaking a little bit to kind of offer more of that fan interaction?
Yeah, I think it's tough in an individual tournament. It's got to be kind of a tour-wide mandate, because you can't expect to go from one situation to another week to week. You got to know there's some consistency. So I would love to see it if the entire tour started talking about it and allowing more. I've always felt that the big stadiums, it actually wouldn't be a problem at all. If you're in Arthur Ashe Stadium and there's 15, 20,000 people there, and they're going crazy the entire time, it's like a baseball stadium. So you get used to the ambient noise, get used to all the craziness going on. The time where I think it would be a problem is when it's at a challenger and there's 25 people there, and someone stomps their foot on a metal bench. You notice that when it's quiet and then there's noise, that's when it's a problem. But when it comes to just noise going on in general, if it's all the time, I mean, we've all practiced where we're next to other tennis going on, where we might be next to a road, cars driving by. We might be next to a baseball field where they're practicing. You're used to that when it's just all the time. But if you're doing that and everything's quiet, and then someone yells and shouts your name, then you're gonna jerk and see what's going on, and that's when it becomes a problem. But if we get used to the fact that there's always noise and we can handle that in the big stadiums, I would love that. I know it would be the only downside for players if it was extremely loud consistently, is it's tough to hear the ball. And that does actually make a difference when you hear the spin coming off, when you hear the pace, you can hear how hard it's hitting. But I like noise. I always loved team sports, watching and having a home and an away and someone going crazy during it. And I like that, but I don't know. It'd be tough to say only if there's this many people in the stands can we have noise, because it's always going. I definitely have been in the crowd. The Miami Open, I always walk around and try to watch from different places in the arena and see what's going on. And I definitely heard people getting a little frustrated. Wait a minute, I can't get up. I can't talk during this. Like, I need to yeah, you do. Like, that's just part of the rules. And it seems like most of the crowds get used to it and they can accept it. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of that Davis Cup attitude or college atmosphere come to the Pro Tour. But I think that would ruffle a lot of feathers. So it might take a while. I think that's kind of the glacial shift that'll happen, not quite an avalanche.
And JPEG says she wants all trash talk to be invited in as well. So we want the Americans are outspoken about what they want done out here.
I love it. She's the greatest, man. She just puts her work boots on and goes. I mean, she's awesome. We had I think Miami Open, she made semis of singles, wins the doubles. So every night I'm having if I had any hair, I'd be pulling it out about where we can schedule her, how much rest she needs, and where can we put her. And we want to keep her happy. She's a star, so we want to have her on the stadium. We want to make sure that we give her the prime times, because we got fans that want to see her. And she's just like, just put me on and play. I just want to play, and I love it. No complaining, just. And I'm thinking, is she going to pull out of the doubles? And I talked to her coach, David Witt, and he's like, no, she will not pull out. If she's not hurt, she's not pulling out. She's going to play. And she played, and she did so well. She's so great for tennis, I think. And seeing her in Charleston, just saying, I'm just tough. I mean, I love that. I love her attitude. And yeah, she's the type that wouldn't mind trash talk. And she's got her hands in a little bit with the football and the hockey that her family's involved in. So she's seen some real trash talk. So I think she wants to bring that to tennis, and I love it. I mean, that's the college tennis kind of a model, where you got guys that genuinely don't like each other, teams that genuinely don't like each other, and they're going to talk trash and leave it all out on the court. And I love that.
And I will say Heineken dropped the ball on not giving her a sponsorship. I think it was the Australian Open in the presser. She just popped one open and she was just chilling with a Heineken in her hand. I mean, that's a layup. You got to go take your layups. And I think Stella Artois hopped in there, saw the easy opportunity for a beer drinking superstar, a top.
I think she was her own agent. Francis joked about that because Francis had a deal and she just popped in and said, "Hey, where's mine?" And she got. I think they filled. They called her up and got her a deal. But yeah, I think I've seen her. She did that at Australia, and I think she did it last year, maybe at Madrid when she made the finals there too, and popped open a Heineken and said that that's what she does when she has to take the drug test because as tennis players we know those come very often, especially when you go deep in tournaments. You got the drug tester with you right next to you as you do your press or as you're doing whatever before you got to go to the bathroom, and sometimes an adult beverage helps that process speed up a bit.
No, I remember seeing JJ Wolf walk out of his presser, and he's like, "You want to come take this test?" I'm like, "Well, you got a drug test already?" He's like, "It's immediately after those matches." Yeah. He was joking. No, JPEG, I would love to see her go back to college tennis days and watch her negotiate the NIL deals. I think she might crush that.
Yeah, she would. She's pretty good. She's a pretty smart cookie, just like her family, her mom and dad.
That's cool. So we're based in Cincinnati. Tennis Point's headquarters in America are here. And we know you had some success in this city, reaching your first career final. I have a memory. I think I couldn't find pictures of it on the internet, but didn't you and Marty Fish throw out the opening pitch at the Reds game?
We did, yeah.
I think I was there.
I think I probably have that picture somewhere, but I don't know.
A legendary picture with like the old pinstripe jerseys, I think.
Yeah,
it's in my head.
I threw it to Marty. We did it. So he caught it and I threw. And I think we did batting practice. Did we do batting practice there too? I think we did batting practice. We loved that. I mean, that was one of my favorite things to do when I got the opportunity to do batting practice at any of the baseball fields. Because like I said, I played baseball when I was a kid, but stopped when I was about 13. But I still love taking batting practice in those big fields and stuff. And that was a ton of fun. We got to meet Ken Griffey Jr. Had a blast with him, talking shop, and it was a lot of fun. He was, he's obviously one of the sweetest swings ever in the game, and so to hear how he kind of honed his craft, it's just fun. I mean, just like Francis talking about meeting Dwayne Wade and LeBron, and when you get to meet greats in other sports, it's great to just listen and see what they did, and if there's anything that translates. And sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's not the same because it's a totally different sport, a different process. But a lot of times that you'll find that there are similarities in the actual journey and what they went through, and then the work that they put in. So that was a ton of fun.
Pretty sick that Griffey's a Cincinnati born and raised kid who my dad actually competed against him in Larkin growing up in high school, which was crazy. So we had some legends back in the day. So you throwing out that opening pitch was pretty cool. You actually went to the finals of, what was it, 2007?
Oof, your memory of the year is probably better than mine. But around there, yeah, 06, 07, right? One of those years, it was a good one when I got smoked by Roger as usual. Man, that guy was unbelievable. I played so well that event. I think I beat Davydenko in the semis and beat him bad. I played well. I mean, just
Nikola Davydenko was so freaking tough.
Yeah, and I think I beat him 4-2, 3-2, something like that. I played unbelievable, and then playing Roger. Okay, maybe I got a chance this time. I'm playing so well. He just toyed with me, beat me 1-4, and it's so frustrating. When I mean, every time I played my best tennis, it was like he was just right there on the other side of the net to show me, hey, your tennis is good, but not me.
What was now like? You got to talk. I mean, you talked about legends and stuff. What was your relationship with Roger Federer?
Oh, it's great. I mean, he's so unique and special. That's what's great about our sport is there's no one path. And Roger is off the court so unbelievably laid back. And I mean, playing him, I played him there. I played him in the finals of Indian Wells one year. And before the match, honestly, if you didn't see that he was getting his ankles taped because we were just like in the training room, I don't know if I was getting my fingers taped or something done, like stretched out. If you didn't see that, if you just heard our conversation, you think we were at like a cafe, just having a coffee, talking about, oh, what are you doing after this? And what's the family up to? And how are they doing? And, oh, you're going back to Switzerland soon. Great. And this, and just as casual as can be, relaxed, talking about that. Meanwhile, we're going out on the court for a Masters 1000 final 30 minutes from then. And then we go out there and he's a killer. I mean, as much as it looks like he's calm and cool, everyone knows he had a temper when he was young. I mean, he has that in him. He just managed to sort of not hide it, but harness it better, and use his calmness to his advantage.
Mhm.
But he was a killer. Once you get on the court, he wants to win every match, and he was. But I also think he was, when I did finally beat him at the Olympics, I swear he was
Wow. Yes.
genuinely happy. He was genuinely happy for me. He said, "Hey, go ahead and win this whole thing." And when I was coming back,
That's
he
what.
when I hurt after I hurt myself, got injured, got sick. When I was coming back, and he beat me again. But he was like, "Man, it's great to see you back. We want you back to full strength. We want you back on tour and ready to compete at this level." He was so nice and genuine. I told the story when I lost him at Indian Wells in the finals, that when I did break my neck in Rome, I got one note in the hospital, handwritten, and it was from Roger, saying, get well soon. And the guy was just he is just genuinely a great guy. So I still have a good relationship with him. I still, hope to see him again down the road. Maybe we'll bring him back to Miami for some sort of role as an ambassador or something, and would love to have him around. And he's just a really a genuinely great guy. And that's the kind of thing I say about all those guys, really. Even if they weren't the best tennis players in the world, our sport is in such good hands that they're just genuinely really good guys.
And like, where does that win 2008 Beijing Olympics? You take out Federer. Where does that rank in your most memorable wins of your career?
1 or 1A. It's one. I mean, probably one, actually. I shouldn't even say 1A. That was the coolest thing, because like I said, when you play my two biggest wins are probably when I've got USA across my chest. It was beating Roger there at the Olympics, and then beating Eugenie in the 2007 Davis Cup when we won it. And so beating Roger, that feeling, and then knowing that it was as part of a team. You win a match when you're normally on tour. You go back, you celebrate with your friends, your family, your coach, and that's about it. And when I got back to first when I got into the locker room, I got a call from the dream team. That was, Kobe
No.
and Wade and those guys. They called because it was actually
That's
Deron Williams' mom was watching, and she came to watch the match, and she then told Deron, "Hey, give James a call. I just watched him. He just had an unbelievable." So they called me. Then I got back to it's basically dorms in the Olympic Village that you're staying in, and all over the door is, congratulations, great job from the U.S. rowing team, from the cycling team, from the archery, whatever team is that. It was covered, and that's so special and so cool to think that that they cared about me, because it made me feel like I was part of the U.S. team, and that was really cool.
Shout out to D. Will. He's part of maybe my favorite college team of all time, with D. Brown and Luther Head. That team at Illinois was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's a fun memory, though.
Yeah.
I think so. We've touched on that. I want to kind of get back to the tour life. What are your thoughts? ATP Next Gen Finals. Mm-hmm. It's been a really fun place for me to just kind of watch the tour tinker with some rules, as far as pace of play and no ad scoring, fast sets to 4, and those types of things. Where do you think do you ever see those things coming to the normal 250s, 500s, 1000s events, or no?
I like the pace of play stuff. I like the shot clock. I love it being uniform. I'm actually almost in favor of really taking any subjectivity out of it, with the way umpires can decide, okay, I'm going to wait until I call the score. And after a long point, they tend to wait a little bit longer before they call the score and start the clock. I would almost say, give them more time, but make it as soon as the point ends. And then even if it's 40 seconds, it's 40 seconds, but as soon as the point ends, the clock starts, and that's how long you have, and you play. So everything is always fair. It's always the same. There's no point in even bothering to argue. It's the point ends, and this is how much time you have. I always liked that. I played really fast when I was on tour, so I benefited from the shot clock, I think, because I wouldn't have ever come close to a violation. But I like that, and the one thing I'm always a fan of is trial and error. As long as you're committed to the fact that if it doesn't work, you can go back to the way it was. So I know there's traditionalists that hate it, but I would say if we want to try 2 out of 3 in slams, let's see what happens for 2 slams. And if it doesn't work and everyone hates it and it doesn't feel the same, it doesn't feel as special, okay, we're done with it. And that won't change, that won't alter history. It'll still make that, the best players most likely still going to come out of it, but 2 slams is not going to change the entire path. So let's try it. And then whether it be no ad scoring, I love the next gen finals for that aspect, that they're going to try it. And then, hey, it didn't even work in next gen, so we're not going to implement it. But look at what happened with coaching. They like it. They're moving it forward. They're doing on-court coaching now. They're allowing it, and players seem to be liking it and being able to prove it. And it doesn't affect the pace of play. So I like trying things and seeing what's going to work. So I'm a fan of all the new things. No ad scoring, I thought at the time, and I'll also be honest, when some things I think that we try, I don't like in general, but then they turn out to work. No ad scoring, I thought in college tennis, I hated it. And now I see it and I'm like, you know what? It's a little more exciting. It gives a little more uniform time of match. So you know what? It's okay. And you look at statistics and stuff, and it doesn't really change the outcomes that much in terms of the higher ranked teams winning or the higher ranked players winning. So it's not changing it. It's making it more uniform and making it a better TV product. That's also something that people need to be. That's now me on the side of the tournament director. Is you think about the other aspect of the sport, the entertainment value. If we can guarantee an ESPN or a Tennis Channel or whoever that it's going to fit within a 2-hour time frame, well, that's a lot more important to them. So now they can buy just 2 hours of TV time instead of worrying that a match could go 5 hours. Because when you do 3 out of 5 sets with ad scoring, I mean, that match could be 80 minutes or that match could be 4.5 hours. So to budget for that on a TV aspect is much more difficult than if you say, hey, it's no ad scoring, it's 2 out of 3 sets. That's never going to take more than 2.5 hours. So let's have that and give them that kind of a time frame, and it maybe can make it a better product.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. I mean, if I'm going to play tennis, no ad scoring, not really for me. I just feel like it doesn't give you that same rhythm. But as far as the viewing experience, I mean, as a fan, I mean, watching college doubles with no ad scoring and watching the teams decide who gets that return, and singles are just kind of the same way, just kind of the mental games you can play with that. I mean, I think that just adds another element of fun. And like you said, it just keeps the pace of play at a more guaranteed time. And that'd be interesting to see how that kind of goes. But as far as the coaching on the court, do you feel like players have really utilized that as much as, I don't feel like I see it that often being utilized. Even at the Miami Open, I was watching for it. I mean, Fritz had a little bit of dialogue when I was on his center court, like a little bit, but I really don't see many players kind of going into the coach's corner.
Yeah, and I think that's a good sign. I mean, I always do think that, and that's one thing that the purists say, is that problem solving out on the court is part of the deal, and that's part of the game. And I agree. I like that. But the way the rules are written, it is difficult to have a dialogue. You can have them talk to you, or you can talk to them, but you can't have really a back and forth. So really all you're getting is a couple things here and there. And I think that's also great, because that was where I think some of the violations were coming is, okay, hey, step up on this second serve return. Okay, that's a coaching violation. But now you can say that. And it's okay. And sometimes that's all it takes is thinking about it. I think back to my Davis Cup ties when I had a captain sitting right there on the bench. And a lot of times you can tell which players are different. And Andy would have full conversations with Patrick, and I would have, I'd sit down on the changeover and he got 90 seconds and we'd say, okay, good job. And that's about it. We didn't have much, back and forth, but the best thing about it was that he understood me, he understood that. And then what would happen is, hey, you're forgetting your body serve, make sure to not forget about that. You're going for aces too much. Okay. That's it. One quick thing, hey, just make sure you step in on that second serve a little more, or maybe give a little tiny bit of space or something, just one little comment. And a lot of times that's all you need, because you've got the right rhythm, you've got the right focus, but you just need to adjust one little thing. And I think that's where coaches can be helpful during a match, because I think it's so crazy to think we're going to totally overhaul something or start going into really deep discussions while you're playing a match. It's really just going to be, you've done that work beforehand. If your coach is going that deep during the match, maybe they didn't have a long enough conversation before the match on the game plan, on the strategy, on what you're looking to do. And maybe they changed something. Maybe you looked for, hey, this guy, they're passing down the line on their backhand side 80% of the time. So look for that. And you come into them 8 times, and the first 8 of them, 7 of them go cross court. Okay, hey, maybe he's found something and he knows that we're looking there. So maybe change that real quick or something, but you're not going that deep into anything during the match, I don't think.
Right. No, and I think that's I think the other aspect for me would be cool, like for Laver Cup. I think my favorite part of the Laver Cup was honestly hearing the players mic'd up. I mean, that's changeovers and stuff. Hearing that dialogue between Federer and Murray and Roger and Rafa and all those guys, and just like watching them help the younger guys and stuff. I mean, that to me is like I learned more from that than almost anything. So I think the more mic'd up content we can get from these guys, I mean, that's what I love. I mean, I'm a big NBA fan myself. So, I mean, listen to those huddles that get mic'd up. I mean, NFL's done it more. I think if tennis can do that, I think we can really tap into that casual fan market, which I think is something that's important for tennis right now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept because we've been talking with ESPN a little bit. You know, we still, you know, convene quite often in between slam and stuff. And one thing that was a really hot topic of conversation recently was watching the Masters. And you see guys, Rory, walking and talking, Max Homa walking and talking and talking. Like, so how can we incorporate that in tennis where you get to know them a little better? And it'd be interesting to see if we can normalize that hey, when as is now becoming sadly customary, it's a set break and one person's going to walk off the court for 5 minutes. Well, hey, let's throw an AirPod in or throw a headset on that guy that's sitting out there, or that woman that's sitting out there, and say, hey, what are you thinking right now? How's it going? You know, what do you think you need to change, or what do you think you've done well? And just, you know, or, you know, hey, what's going through your head? Are you gonna eat something on this changeover? What are you gonna eat? You know, just getting to know them a little bit.
What's that gel that you keep slurping at the changeovers?
Exactly. Throwing a sponsor ad. You know, JPEG, you getting the Heineken tonight? What's going on? You know, you know, you can do those kind of things. And the other thing the other time I felt like would be really valuable is that warm up. 2 hours before a match, an hour before a match, depending on individuals, how often they feel like, but they go out on the practice courts and they hit for a half an hour. And it's generally, for most players, I can speak for myself at least, it's very relaxed. You're just getting the blood flowing. You're not doing anything that strenuous. You're hitting for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You're getting things going. You're feeling a little rhythm. You're feeling the courts. And if you were to throw in an AirPods while you're doing that and talk, and even if it's not like the audio isn't perfect or whatever, just, hey, what are you thinking, you know, for this match? And we're not going to get into deep strategy because, you'll never get that when you're playing a one-on-one. It's different than golf, but you can get hey, after this, I'm going in, I'm going to get a stretch. I'm going to grab a bar. I'm going to, sit and watch this match that I'm following. And, we'll see if, Sakari and Andreescu go 6 in the third, like they always do when I'm coming after them. And then I got to sit around and wait. And then I'll be on the bike a couple more times. And, that's what I'm going to do. And, me and my hitting partner are going to go play some cards, and I'm going to kick his butt in gin, or, whatever you're going to talk about. And that's a way to get to know the players. Hey, what do you do for this time while you're waiting before you get on the court? And I think that could be something that would be valuable for fans to get a little insight into the players' mentality.
I think that would be awesome. I think you see some of those fans that sit in the stands. They hold the little piece in their ear that they can listen to the audio from the ESPN or whatever. And I think to give them that, so they're watching and then they can also listen as well. I think that adds just a whole different dynamic to the viewership experience that would take tennis to another level.
How great would that be to hear Francis on one of those? He got an injury timeout from someone he's playing, and you're sitting in the crowd with one of those things, and you can hear Francis just laughing and goofing off, for those 5 minutes while the other guy's getting treated. And, oh man, this guy isn't even really hurt. I'm gonna take him out anyway, and just joking around and having a fun. I mean, that'd be unbelievable for that experience.
I went to that Desert Smash party in Indianapolis or in Indian Wells, where him and Pink stole the show, and I think he's an entertainer. He's one of the best entertainers in sports. I mean, this is like he's worked his whole life for these moments, and he embraces all that stuff. I mean, that's big time content. That's what we need. So I just completed my second go around on the Sunshine Double. It was super cool to meet you on the first one in Miami, and then just to watch the improvements you guys made to the campus. Little things that I noticed. Which was really cool that you guys are continuing to tinker, just the setup to make easier and more efficient. Kind of the grounds easier to walk and stuff for fans. Kind of talk about this role that you've taken on as the director of the Miami Open. It's a lot different being on this side of it, I'm sure, but you get to bring that player mindset and like the experiences that you've had as a top player in the world. And now you get to try to make the game better from that standpoint in the world.
Yeah, I feel lucky to be part of it, and this trend to have former players as tournament directors is I think a good thing for the game, because it gives you a little added respect when you go into the locker room, when you're doing the scheduling, when you're talking to the players about what's going on and what's possible. And I know I'm also very lucky to be the tournament director of a tournament like Miami, where we have the ability to say yes to a lot of things, where we can tinker, where we can add, where we can do so much for the players that we want to make it, we want to make them happy. And I just think, when there is a no, it's a little different hearing it from a player that is fighting for you. They know that, hey, if there's something that the players really want, I'm going to try to get it. And if it's not possible, it's not possible. They know I tried. And so sometimes going into the locker room and saying, look, this is the schedule and this is the way it is. Someone like Jess, her schedule can't always be perfect because she's playing singles and doubles. So this is the way it's got to be. Look, I tried. I'm sorry, but there's really no way we can shift it this way. And then she's like, okay, I get it, and I think that's different than hearing it from someone that's never been there, that's never been in that locker room, that doesn't know what it's like to play a match on a little bit of rest and not know what it's like to play a night match or something like that. So I think it helps. And then the other thing that it helps is it helps me to really think about the rest of the tennis world, that it's not just players. That then, I was so isolated in thinking about players when I was a player, that now to think about the sponsors, to think about the fans, to think about the media, to think about everything else that goes into it, it's really been a learning experience. And now I'm 5 years in, and I feel like so much better. And I appreciate you saying it's gotten better this year, because I feel like I'm hopefully getting better at my job every year too. And that first year learning kind of on the job, I know I needed a lot of help, and now it feels like it's running a lot better, and I feel more comfortable. And it's the ability for me to give back to the sport that I've loved and has given me so much. And when I got out of the game for a little while on purpose to see what else was out there, and it realized it actually made you appreciate how much you love the game and how much passion you have, that I thought I wanted to get away from it because I was so immersed in it as a player for 14 years that after I stepped away, I realized, it is still what I'm passionate about. So there's nothing wrong with being a part of it, even if I can't play the way I used to play. So this was an opportunity to do that, and hopefully have some sort of a positive impact on the sport.
That's sweet. I mean, that's awesome. No, it definitely has gotten better. I mean, just in the 2 years that I went, I talked to one of the girls that I know she is in control of the campus and how the things are set up. Her name is Jordan Brobst, and she just said she works for the Hard Rock, and how much she loves the job. And I mean, I can just tell the passion for making that event great is there, and you can feel that when you walk onto the grounds. I mean, the energy is amazing. It's like a constant party of tennis fans just celebrating the game, which is cool. But give us your top memories, whether you as kind of a fan / director of just like you kind of being over this event. What are your top memories in this past couple of weeks that we had here?
For Miami Open, the best memories, I mean, well, one was that Sinner Alcaraz match. That was incredible. Some of the best points. And that's, a lot of times I don't get a chance to go out to the court and watch. I'm watching from my office, or I'm watching kind of as I'm walking by doing something else, or in someone else's office. But that one, I got out to watch most of it on the grounds, and that was incredible. And it's so fun to see those young guys that are going to battle hopefully for the next 10 years. And that level just keeps improving and improving.
American tennis fans are lucky. We've gotten that match 3 times now in the last 7 months or whatever.
Yeah, and it's been incredible every time. So seeing that one was fun. The women's final, Kvitova, that first set, I want to say it was 16-14 in the tiebreak. I got to watch that. Actually, my kids and my family were there for that one, and I got to watch that tiebreak with them, and I got to tell them all about how nice Petra is, and how persistent she was to come back, and that she could have probably been out of the game a few years ago, and how nice she is. And so that was a fun memory to see my kids look up to her and cheer for her during that one because of her story, because of her backstory. And then them getting to meet Coco and Jess after the match, their doubles final, which was a ton of fun. That was definitely a highlight for me. And then the other one on the men's side was Chris Eubanks, seeing him get to the quarterfinals. And I've known him for a long time, since he actually came out here to San Diego to train for a week or two, because I love helping the young players. I'm not really able to travel a lot to help someone, to coach someone, but if they want to come out here, I'm always open to it. And Chris took me up on that when he was very young, and I love seeing him succeed because he's been so cerebral before about his career and really thinking through a ton of things. And and also being relatively realistic, but to have those dreams and now be in the top 100 and now shooting for his next goal, okay, now get to top 50 and see where it takes you. And, it was really fun to see. And he played unbelievable. It wasn't just like it was handed to him. He played great getting through qualies. And so really happy and proud for him. So that was fun. And personally for me, hanging with Mike Tyson for a minute there was great, because I actually just coincidence, I actually finished his book probably the day before I left for Miami. So after just reading all about his struggles, his ups and downs in his life, I'd met him quite a few times before at tennis events, because his daughter's a very good tennis player. But then to know now what he had been through, aside from what you see in public, it was pretty cool. So getting to talk to him, for me, I generally don't get excited to meet a lot of celebs, but when you literally just finish their book and then they happen to be at your event, that was a pretty cool coincidence, I thought.
That's awesome. And, Chris Eubank's another college tennis guy who's broken out. I don't think that guy has an enemy in the world. He's just the nicest dude ever. And I love watching him on the desk on the tennis channel. I love his Twitter account, and he's just always candid. You just always feel like it's coming from a good place, always genuine. Him and Tiafoe both. We've got some good faces of the tour. Where do you think tennis is headed? Now we got Rafa's pretty much, I think I can say that he's probably going to be just a clay court guy going forward. Novak is obviously still at the top of the game, but Roger's out. Where do you feel like the game's headed on the men's side of things, at least?
I think we're at an interesting point, because I know that I was around back when everyone was scared what's going to happen when Andre and Pete retire, and when they're gone, what's going to happen? Is anyone ever going to fill that void? And then, Roger filled that void. We had Andy for about a year, and then it was Roger taking over as a number one player, and then Rafa steps up, and then Novak steps up, and now we're wondering what's going to happen when they leave the scene, and someone always fills it. And right now it's Carlos Alcaraz coming up and showing that he can fill that void. And now then it'll be, okay, were the other guys that were the younger guys, the Zverevs, the Tsitsipas's, were they somewhat overwhelmed by the big three initially, and now maybe they can see that, okay, now they got a newfound confidence that Novak isn't playing as well, or Rafa's only playing on clay and Roger's gone. Now they feel like, okay, now we can start taking over, we can start winning slams. Or is Alcaraz going to start hoarding them the way Roger did it early in his career? And it'll be fun to see. We got great Americans too, which is awesome, with Francis and Taylor and Ben Shelton and Sebastian Corda when he's healthy. So Tommy Paul. We got some great guys. So we'll see if we can break the streak of Andy, about 20 years now since he won the U.S. Open. That's a lot of fun. Holger Rune is an incredible talent. Casper Ruud, will he break through if Rafa it stops being the absolute king of clay and starts becoming mortal again, riding off into the sunset? Maybe Casper Ruud can win a Roland Garros. So and then is Medvedev going to take over as the best hardcourt player in the world and start dominating the U.S. and Australian Opens? And there's a lot of fun storylines. So on the men's side, it's exciting, and on the women's side, it's been so much variety for the past 5 years, 6 years, where there hasn't been someone that's dominant since Serena. So is Iga going to come back healthy and really start dominating again, or are we going to have this sort of cavalcade of new champions and new faces that are just going to always be not one slam, winning one slam, maybe winning two, and that's it. And it just kind of rotates. We'll see.
And just the Carlos thing. He's the guy that's, I think, captivated just a casual fan right now, because he has the power, he's got the speed and the quickness, and he's got the finesse that you just don't see in athletes very often. It's like it's not fair to have all of that. You can't have the biggest forehand on the tour maybe, and then have the softest hands with an elite drop shot, and then the court coverage and the speed out of the corners to recover, the flexibility like Novak to hit shots out of awkward stances and just get transition from defense to offense so quickly. It's just like that dude's a specimen, and he has the head on his shoulders to just. It's so easy to root for the kid. He just has so much fun out there.
He's such a nice guy, and right now he absolutely does have it all. The only thing you worry about right now is the injuries. He's had quite a few already, and he's only 19 years old. So you hope that's more just a protection. Juan Carlos Ferrero may be saying, "Hey, look, any sort of injury, we're gonna nip it in the bud. We're not gonna let you make anything worse. We're not gonna get you any sort of injury that's going to take you out for 6 months to a year. We're going to keep everything to a couple weeks where we shut you down, and then you get right back, and you're healthy for every slam, because that's what's going to define your legacy." I think it's pretty apparent already that he's the type of player that his legacy will probably be defined by grand slams. He's not a guy that's gonna that it's going to matter whether he wins 12 or 13 250s. It's more about how many grand slams he's going to win. So I hope that's more just a protective policy out of his team and him, because he's got a great team with him. I spoke to Juan Carlos, it's probably 5 years ago, when he told me he's training a kid that's going to be special, and he knew from early on that this kid is going to be something incredible. And he is extremely captivating, and you just hope he can stay healthy. And this was the same way I think some of us felt about Rafa when Rafa was 18, 19 years old. It's like, he can't play this physical, get to every ball, have this much enthusiasm, and still be playing 10 years from now. And here it is almost 20 years later, and he's still doing it with that kind of gusto. So you got to hope he's like Rafa, but that's a pretty tough ask.
No doubt. And that's why I don't like when people make the comparisons so frequently, but it's like, it's almost, I don't blame him. It's hard not to when this guy's so captivating. But I do have to, think that Juan Carlos Ferrero, a guy that's had plenty of success on the tour, a guy you're familiar with, you have to think he took a page out of Nadal's playbook a bit and just tries to prevent some of these injuries. And it looked like Carlos was back on the courts practicing on the clay today. So that's a good sign for fans. Shout out to Holger Rune, another guy who was our first active player on our podcast over a year ago. He came on and he was outside the top 100. And we asked him what his goals were. And he was like, I want to win 3 titles. I want to be top 25 in the world. And I want to have a couple top 10 wins. And it's like, boom, he gets 3 titles. He goes top 10 and he gets top 10 wins. And it's like, these guys are setting these goals at 18, 19 years old. That's just like, it's hard to believe. And these guys they're reaching them. So, in American tennis, great hands. I think we had, 15 guys at some point this year were top 10, top 100, which is just absurd. And a ton of these guys are fun to watch with contrasting styles. And you've got guys like Foe and Shelton and Korda. And like when Korda gets healthy, and Tommy Paul, who's one of the best athletes on the tour. It's just like a lot of fun guys to root for. JJ Wolf brings a different style of firepower and just
college tennis.
It's college tennis, man. I think that's where these guys get it from. But I wanted to finish up with the last question is kind of what role, beside we know obviously what it is with Miami, but outside of that, what role does tennis play in your life right now?
Tennis it's still a passion. I still love it. But with the commentary, I'm far enough away now that I know I'm not. I've got no delusions of ever performing the way I did. So now it's much more comfortable just to be around it and to appreciate it as a fan. I watched that, like I said, I was able to sit out there and watch Alcaraz Sinner, and I can watch that as a fan now and just say, man, that's incredible. And, I can maybe have a little more insight than the average fan, because I've been out on that court, or I've been out playing guys that maybe aren't exactly like them, but I've played the Rafas, the Rogers, the Novaks. And so I know what it's like to play some of the all-time greats. But I can just watch now and enjoy it. And I do think, back to what I was saying, like, I think that has a lot to do with me having no regrets, is that I did my best. So now I can just appreciate it and know, hey, if someone feels like I should have done better, that's on them. That's cool. But if someone feels like I overachieved, then that's on them too. And, I feel like I did everything I could. And now I get to love it. I get to love the sport. I get to talk about them, and I get to be a commentator and talk about a match I might be watching anyway. And I get to do it with people I like. So I feel very lucky. And then when I can give my 2 cents and help, like I am with this kid, with Hudson Rivera, like I said, before he goes off to Stanford, and seeing his progression. I'm not at the point, because my kids now are 10 and 9 years old. They actually still like me. In fact, they for some reason want me still around, and I know that's going to change in about 2 or 3 years. So I want to be home. So I'm not going to go out and like actually coach right now and be on tour 30 weeks out of the year. But if I can help young players,
you're not closing that door though. It sounds like.
Oh, no. Like I said, they're gonna want me out of the house in 3 or 4 years probably. So they might say, Dad, get out of here. And so maybe I will go on the road and coach, but it's not my intention right now to be out there all the time. If I can help a player with like big picture stuff and be around them and just help them when I can, That's definitely something that's interesting to me. And but going out on the road all the time isn't my goal right now. But I get to enjoy it, and I get to, think about, because you don't think about it at the time. It's similar to when I was coming back and like trying to be better each day. Now, after you've been through 14 years of being on tour, you don't think about how much you've learned and how much you gained, your perspective on the tour, your perspective on the calendar, your perspective on the work ethic, and everything that you did to be successful can actually help someone else that's going through those same things. And it's funny for me now to see some of the young players going through, a lot of the same things, and almost some of the light bulb moments. I was talking actually to Tommy, Paul, and Francis after Tommy played Alcaraz at Miami, and he was just like, man, the guy's so good, he's doing this, he's doing that. And then he just said one thing that kind of clicked in my head. He's like, man, you leave one ball just like a little bit in the middle and boom, he's on it with a forehand and he's ripping. I said, wait a second, what'd you say? I said, you and Francis, I've talked to both of you at some point, like, you guys both have the best legs, like you guys move so well, like use it for offense. Like that's what I've told you guys playing. He's like, yeah. He's like, what? And then he kind of caught himself like, I've been telling you that, like Carlos does. Like that's what I learned. Like I could move really well when I was on tour. I relate to both you guys. Like, and one of the best things I learned when I was young was that instead of just using it to back up and play defense and just scramble, hey, if I can use my legs, my aggression to be aggressive, it's gonna end up making me run less, because I'm gonna win this match 4-4 instead of losing it 6 in the third. So let me use my legs to be aggressive, and like that's what Carlos just did. There's a reason he's number 1 or number 2 in the world, is because he's using his legs the right way, and he has to play defense sometimes. But if you can take that center ball that you leave a little bit short and you be aggressive with that, you're gonna end the point really quickly, and you're gonna frustrate guys like you. So. And both of them are like, yeah, we know, we've heard you. But I hope it sinks. Eventually, you say it enough times, and it will sink in.
You and Tommy Robredo were big on getting around the backhand, hitting that forehand, quick footwork around, flip the hips, get around the ball. No, but it does seem like you talked about Alcaraz in the center. It's like, in my opinion, I grew up in the greatest era of all time. I mean, with you, Roddick, Roger, Rafa, Novak, all these. I mean, Delpo, Gael, Tsonga, all these legends. But it's like it almost seems like just with technology and just the training that goes in, are their swing speed off the ground? Is it bigger than what you guys were hitting?
I think it's a little bigger. I've talked to Darren Cahill is a colleague of mine at ESPN, and he works with center. And I've talked to him about that. And I always say, like, look, I'm never going to be one of those commentators that says, oh, back in my day, we would have beaten all these guys. I don't want to be that crusty old guy that says that, because I'm like, the game keeps getting better. These guys are just better than we were. And he pushed back a little. He's like, they might be better, but it's not as much as you think. He's like, if you and Andy, like in your prime, you guys go back, you guys were hitting big like them. You may not think it, you may not realize it because you're out of the game for a while. But he's like, I've watched you guys. I've watched Andre. He's worked with Andre for so long. He's like, and now I watch these guys, and yeah, they're hitting it big, but you guys were too. So he's saying, I think it's changed quite a bit. He's saying it's only changed a little bit, but it's there's no doubt. I mean, we're both in agreement that it's gotten better. The game keeps getting better, but he's saying the shift is a little more gradual. I think it's incredible. The thing for me is, like, we had guys, I agree, that hit big. We had guys that moved really well, but we didn't have guys like Alcaraz that hit big and moved well until Roger. And Roger was the unicorn at the time. Then Rafa came along, then Novak came along. And now you're seeing more and more guys that can hit big and move really well. And that's becoming more of the trend. And now I feel like if you're in the top 100, it's a prerequisite. You have to move well. You can't be there and be slow. It's just the guys hit too big that they would absolutely, they would just completely take advantage of the fact that you can't move, and they're going to hit too many winners, and it's going to be over too quickly. And so even the guys that supposedly don't move well, like Taylor Fritz, he still moves way better than you would think, because he's 6'5" and he's long, and he just gets the ball. He knows how to position himself the right way. So I think that I think it's gotten quite a bit better. Darren thinks maybe just marginally, but I think it's gotten a lot better.
It's like Charles Barkley when he says that, the basketball is it's like evolution. Things are just going to get better. But it's like in basketball, shooting is the ultimate equalizer. And I think in tennis, it's become the movement and the athleticism out of the corners for me. But no, I mean, you take any, like, as far as the serve goes, I mean, in the forehands, like your forehand, Delpo's forehand, Roddick's serve, all those things are as big as they are now. But it's just like when you combine all these things, it's like, man. And for me, it's off the ground strokes is where I see, like, the velocity seems to be out of this world. I mean, it's just constantly just pelting the ball into the corners.
And I actually think the strategy has changed a little bit now too. And I feel like it was, I sometimes think I was born in the wrong generation because I think of it in plenty of different ways, but one being nowadays, I feel like everyone stands right on that baseline and rips. And that's the goal, is like, hey, I can take time away. And that's what I was saying and doing from early on in my career that I had to do. And I was getting criticized nonstop. I always got to, stop confronting the bounce. You got to move back. You got to play safer. You got to play a little less aggressive. You got to get the ball in the court. No one does that anymore. People are ripping from point one right away. And I think they've realized, like, hey, taking time away has a lot of value. And we're hitting the ball so well. The technology is so good that we're not worried about, with a wooden racket, that we're not going to be able to make perfect contact. We're still hitting the ball great. So I think that's changed. And I feel like I would be a lot more in line with most of the way players are playing now than I was then when I was taking time away. So maybe it's better that I was there, because I was one of the only ones that was doing it. And now I'd be one of the herd. Maybe I wouldn't have had as much success. I don't know, but it'd be fun for me to see. But I do think it's changed. That's I talk to a lot of coaches now, and many of them are preaching, hey, first strike tennis. Let's get up and get in the court, get inside the court. Inside the baseline is better. And I feel like when I was playing, they were telling me, oh, no, you need to back up. Luckily, I had a coach that was not saying that, but all the commentators and critics were saying, well, you got to back up more. You need to use your legs for defense. And I was like, no, that wasn't me. That wasn't my skill set. And that wasn't the way I thought was my best tennis. So I like seeing the fact that the strategy has shifted quite a bit and people are playing. And I think that's why it's better tennis.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think it's just incredible to see, like, even a guy like Sasha Zverev who has ridiculous court coverage. It's like, if he doesn't lay his shoulders into the ball, like, even guys like him will get exposed. But yeah, man, I really appreciate the time. I got to finish up with a couple. Give me a prediction on Roland Garros this year. That's where we got. I mean, we're in Monte Carlo. It's a lot of fun right now, but we got to go right to the big leagues. Give me the Roland Garros prediction this year. So
I said this about 3 years ago, that until Rafa decides to change something, he's my pick. So I will not be burned by him coming back and be like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be healthy. I don't know if I'm going to play. He's my favorite until further notice. Rafa's still a favorite, and I have no idea how healthy he is, how good his foot is. That could change once we get to the French Open and we see, like, the first round, he is still hobbling. But if he's healthy, he's still my pick. That's awesome. So last question. Give me right now, if you go out there and play a match, what do you think your UTR would be? Oh man, I don't know. What's I'm terrible at knowing this. Like, the top guys are like 15s or 16s, right? Yeah, Novak's the top dog. I think he's like 16-1 or 16-2, and you got like your good Division I player is like a 12-5. Ohio State's. I can still. So I have hit with some of those Harvard kids, and I hit with Hudson. So I can safely say I'm over. I can still hang with the top college players. So I'm a 12-5 or 13, I think. Hell yeah, let's go. That's big time. Yeah. All right, well, James, appreciate all the time that you gave us today. And if you ever need, I mean, I'm sure you got your plugs, but if you ever need anything tennis related, gear, strings, equipment, anything you need, let us know. We'll help you out at Tennis Point. Been a fan of you since I was a young kid, and it's been awesome to get to know you a little bit now and watch you do your thing at the Miami Open, and can't wait to see you again and a Sunshine Double next year. We had a ton of fun doing this, though. This was awesome. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Nate. I appreciate it. I'll be hitting you up for my daughter's starting to play tennis. Those tennis shoes are starting to get expensive. I'll be hitting you up. let me know, my man. We got you covered. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. All right, James. Thanks for coming on the Pure Tennis Podcast, man. All right. Take care. Have a good one.